I'd like to talk a little bit more about the Canadian economy. We started out talking a little bit about the U.S. elections and stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
To some degree, we should probably talk a little bit about the Canadian elections, because that's ultimately, well, okay, that would be the worst case scenario is 15 months from now. Oh, not 15. Yeah, 15, 17 months from now. We just finished experiencing Toronto-St. Paul by-election. I don't know if you know the by-election.
I watched a little bit. And I'm still a little confused
Toronto,
on
St. Paul, for whatever, I think it's almost 40 years or so that it's been solid liberal, just liberal, and not even Pierre Poilievre didn't even campaign there because it was a by-election. I guess somebody had stepped down, and then it was a mid-year kind of an election there, and Poilievre didn't even campaign in there because he said, well, we'll never win it, you know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And they won it, and so there's a conservative in Toronto St. Paul.
Oh, nice.
Which is
Toronto St. Paul. What do you
Toronto's
mean?
right downtown, like Toronto St. Paul area. I'm not sure, but
Is that a municipality? Or
yeah, it would be
a suburb.
Not a suburb. It's Toronto, a certain section of Toronto.
Oh, I've never heard of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can look it up, and that the Liberal won last election by 24 points, and now the Conservatives won, and the general impression then is, okay, you take a look at every Liberal seat in Canada, and who had less than 24 points, who won by less than 24 points.
Mm-hmm.
And they could very well be at a jeopardy, the same way as Toronto St. Paul, and that was it. It was a huge upset. They were talking about, are talking about it, and it still does not move Justin Trudeau to step down. And I'm okay with that, actually. I actually would like to see Justin Trudeau actually go through an election, and because really what it does is it's no real difference than how do I say this, when Stephen Harper, when he was I guess you would say to a certain extent ousted, when Brian Mulroney was ousted. There was another one where the Liberals lost or whatever. And in Canada, as well in the States, there's pendulums that swing back and forth and back and forth. And what we're seeing now in the world is it used to be that it was much more left than anywhere. And it was very, very dark times, especially during in the middle of COVID. It was just like left and far-leaning government authoritarianism and stuff like this. And but now what we're seeing, and this is basically 2 years or 2.5 years from the Freedom Convoy, you can visibly see all around the world things moving much more right. Mm-hmm. It's sort of like creating a vacuum where the left, I call them, they're extremists. And the extremists are losing power, losing influence, losing authority, and you can more than you can see it in the United States where people are saying, okay, that's enough. We're moving away from the left and moving towards the right. You can see it very much in Canada. I mean, Pierre Poilievre is 20 points up on the polls, and if they would have an election today, it would be the biggest landslide of any political party in Canada in its history. If there would be it would be a giant move over. And so we are in the cusp really right now where we're in the last little bits of, okay, we have to put up with some of the far left policies that they're enacting. And we're just putting up with it and waiting the time, like 15, 17 more months, because I can't really see that Trudeau is going to call an election before that, I'd be shocked and amazed because he knows he's going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
Then the question is, how much is he going to lose? Well, I don't know if he actually even cares that much anymore. I think realistically his vision is only to stay in power for as absolutely long as he can, because for whatever reason he's enjoying it right now. He's getting.
Do you think he won the last election that he called? Or do you think?
Well, I think he did, but I think there was cheating, and it might have affected a couple of ridings, maybe, but it'd be very, very difficult to prove it. There's too many things that can be erased digitally and otherwise. That it's not what the truth is as much as what you can prove in court.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think both down in the States and in Canada, people are much more aware now of what can and will could happen. Is there cheating? There was obviously there was a lot of people believe that there was cheating down in the States and maybe down up here in Canada as well. But now that everybody says, okay, well, we think there's cheating, we couldn't prove it before. Now we're watching.
Yeah.
Now we're really, really going to watch.
Yeah.
And you can't get away with it the second time around like you did the first time.
Yeah, they're really fighting against that down south.
Yeah. There's some laws that were changed in the South that is going to pretty much make it, shouldn't say impossible, but very difficult to cheat again.
Well, they're really watching now.
Yeah.
They got people at the polls.
Yeah. And the biggest problem last time was in the middle of COVID, the mail-in ballots.
Yep.
And that was, it was actually really a change of policy and a very lax, very loose kind of, okay, we'll do this. Oh, okay. Oh, we got another few boxes. Okay, whatever. And they're very, very lax. And because they were lax, you could point to potential possibility of cheating. Well, they're not lax anymore. No. This what's coming in the future, there might be some people. There's always people cheating, but it does. It's not a big enough number to make a material difference, and it did last time, but that's only because of COVID and some of the changes. Now, who knows what's going to happen in 4 or 5 months, right? I mean, there could be a war or a terrorist attack or something like that. And, well, we'll have to suspend these rules, and therefore this and this, and wham, and try and you never know what's going to happen. But I think there's enough heated people in the States that any slight tint of cheating is going to immediately go to the courts. And the courts have been pretty fair when it comes to the cheating aspect of it. At least the higher ones up. They've been quite realistic and overturned some of the rules that they were trying to put through or so.
Do we not have a conservative like the House are the Conservatives not running the House? Or
are you talking?
Are they in control? Like I know we have a Liberal government.
Oh no, okay. We only have the Parliament, and it's basically a democratically elected dictatorship, and that's just how our system works, where we don't elect a leader, we elect a representative, and that representative basically is part of a party that elects a leader. And then that leader has almost dictatorial powers. It's that we're on a little bit of a fringe of the free world, where a prime minister has huge powers. Once he's put together his cabinet and makes his policy or whatever. Very little stuff that can be stopped with it. The only thing that kind of stops it is the Senate, which they pass a law in Parliament and then it goes to Senate and they have to ratify it and it goes through. And the way historically It should have been. It should have operates. If you have a conservative government, they start putting more and more conservatives in the on the Senate, and so by the time the people are tired of the conservatives, there's a little bit, sort of a conservative majority in the Senate, and then they get ousted, and then you got liberals. But now for the first term, the liberals then have to deal with a conservative Senate, and it goes back and forth, back and forth, and it's self kind of regulating. So when I remember when Stephen Harper was, he said we got to get rid of the Senate, got to get rid of the Senate. I don't think so, because otherwise you have real total dictatorial powers, and the guy can suspend just by. It's pretty bad. Canada is bad that way. So I'm not a big fan of getting rid of the Senate. However, if Poilievre gets in, the real question is, what can he actually pass through as law anymore?
Right.
Because now you have a wild, shouldn't say wild, but a heavy liberal Senate, and it could take 2 or 3 terms in order for the Senate to allow some passing.
To get things.
Pierre Poilievre was here in Winnipeg, for the goodness, 6 or 8 months ago or something like that. I just watched and listened to him or whatever, and which was all well and good. He was saying all of the conservative things that he should be saying or whatever. But I actually talked to Plett, Don Plett, and I said, because realistically, I told him, I said, look, Mr. Plett, this is what I want to know. He's saying all the right things, but how much can he actually get through Senate? Because that's really where the bottleneck's going to be.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because he can get in and he's going to be a total landslide and everything.
Yeah.
But who cares if the Senate stops him on everything?
Stops him. Yep.
What Plett told me was that that's a very, first of all, he says that's a very good question. He says it's not I can't give you 100% accurate answer on there, but generally speaking, there is a majority of people in the Senate who are there, who want to do what the Canadian public want. And yes, there are radical liberals there who will try and stop everything that the conservatives would try and put through, but they are a minority. And he says, we're guessing, but that's generally how it looks. And so realistically, he says that what really helps Poilievre is what he's saying on the campaign trail. If he says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's what I'm going to do. And then he gets into power and he starts doing A, B, C, D, E, F, something completely different. That's where the Senate stops and says, no, no, no. But if he's trying to enact 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, then they say, okay, well, this is what he said on the campaign trail, and this is what he got elected for doing, and this is what the people want, so then we're doing it. So what he's saying is so incredibly important for the Liberals to understand, and the majority of the Liberals in the Senate to say, okay, well, this is what the people really want. So as opposed to, he said anyway, as opposed to a Liberal government standing up and in their campaigning, they're saying, hey, we're going to do this, this, and this. And then when it comes to actually enacting powerful stuff or whatever, it's something completely different. Like the Liberal government never campaigned on like what internet censorship, and where they're blocking Google and YouTube and all of these things. They never ran on that. That wasn't their platform.
No.
Their platform was on houses and money and whatever. And so that is the difference. Saying one thing and doing something totally different. So it gave me a little bit of a hope to say, okay, so let's say, for instance, in a year from now, we have an election and Poilievre is in. that's just step one.
Mm-hmm.
We got 2 or 3 more steps after that, where we got to say, okay, for the first thing he says is what you can do is go in there and reverse a lot of the ridiculous things that Trudeau put through, and because they were sort of that was sort of a radically put through anyway, and to reverse them would actually be pretty easy. Or at least that's the implication that he
Then
showed.
4 years later, it all gets reversed again.
Well, that
It's just
depending,
a vicious cycle.
Well, depending on whether, if it's 4 years later, if it's radical again. Because I got this gut. Maybe I'm just optimistic, but realistically, in my opinion, if Trudeau gets absolutely trounced, okay, it's not that the Liberal Party is a bad Liberal Party. It is the Liberal Party was taken over by radicals. And those radicals are what the Canadians are rebelling against. They don't want the radicals in there. There are some things that I at least understand and respect liberals, even though I would be considered a conservative. I respect a liberal position. But some of the things that Trudeau was putting through, they're not even liberal positions. They're like radical stuff. We're in an isolated country sometimes because some of this ridiculous things, and people understand it. Canadians are so gentle and okay, we're just going to wait for this next election, and Trudeau like really ticked off a lot of the Muslim and the Hindu population by some of the stuff that they're doing for, against, in my opinion, against children, for instance, and the family. And you do that once or twice, and it's in the mind of a good, solid, Muslim or Hindu individual who's very pro-family, and you say, why am I fighting the government in this in my life? I want the government out of my family. Get out of here. And once they get that in their mind, that look, we got to get these radicals out of our family. How they can promise all the money, they can promise everything that they want just before the election. People are going to remember. Most of them are going to remember and say, you know what? Look what you did, and you were threatening my family, and we want you out. So once they're out. And if there's a good solid trouncing where liberals lose a huge amount like that, either the liberal government or the Liberal Party, should I say, they either continue being radical and not have any influence or almost no influence whatsoever, or they get rid of the radicals. And they go back to, like the Jean Chrétien and the Paul Martin and, the real liberals, so to speak, because, if you take a look at, Paul Martin, he was one of the first liberals to balance the budget. He was a lot of conservatives in there. Now, yes, Stephen Harper did pay down some debt, quite a bit of debt, so that's a conservative kind of thing. But liberals can act responsibly if they are truly liberals, But there's far too many radicals right now, and to clean house, man, that's going to take a lot. Once, if Pierre would get in, he has near dictatorial power, so he could get rid of, I always say, you could get rid of 50% of the government, and the average Canadian would hardly even notice any difference. We just well, really? You got rid of 50% of the government? The people in the government would notice right away, oh my goodness, there's all sorts of things that we're not doing anymore. But the average Canadian would say, I don't even notice it. And that's That takes a lot of boldness. And I mean, I don't like to put my faith in a politician, even though Pierre Poilievre says all the right things.
Right.
I don't like to put my faith in there because people change. Can you? He had said like, still need to keep them accountable regardless of how much power they have.
Yeah.
That's bottom line.